To find her lying beside my bed, I softly said, "Come take me." For I feel lonely, in need of someone, as though I've done someone wrong somewhere, but I don't know where. I don't know where. Come lately. You are the sun, I am the moon. You are the words, I am the tune. Play me. Song she sang to me, song she rang to me, words that rang in me, rhyme that sprang from me and warmed the night. And what was right?
Santariga today. Been a long time since we've talked, my friend.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah. No, I've been battling. I don't know if it's COVID or the flu, but I've been battling some for like 3 weeks, and I feel better. I'm going to work and everything, but I still have like a sore throat that I can't get past, and I don't know what the hell's going on with me. But normally, if it's the flu, it takes me out for about 2 weeks, and if it's COVID, I don't really feel it. COVID never really affects me, so
No,
I don't know what I'm dealing with.
there's been a nasty flu going all over the country. I know that where I live, it's hit hard here. Knock on wood, I've avoided it so far, but
Yeah, knock on wood. Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Other than that, I'm alive and kicking, and still trying to get out there when the weather permits, and you know, um, joined up with spending a lot of time with a fellow researcher, Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch, and he's out of Connecticut, and he's got a show on what's his name, Doug Hychek's network.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's not far from me, and so we've been spending a lot of time together. I want to get up to his location and do. I've never been up there yet, and he wants to come back to mine. He came down to mine last year, but he had a bad experience there, and he left early. But he wants to come back again and retry it, and he wants to start filming. As usual, everybody starts off either in the paranormal realm or the Bigfoot realm, and then eventually you cross over. He started off in the Bigfoot realm. Now he wants to cross over to paranormal. I started off in the paranormal. Well, I don't know. I guess I started off in everything because I had all my experiences at a young age, Bigfoot and UFOs and paranormal stuff. So for me, it's just a lifetime experience. But I was one of those guys who took all my paranormal equipment into the woods with me when I went squatching and used everything I possibly can. At this stage of the game, I'm no longer care about the $1 million video or the $1 million shot. I do more stuff. Every time I go out now, I do like 250 readings. And I do the 250 readings as soon as I get there, environmental readings, and see what the environmental is showing me. And then as the night goes on, I incorporate things to see if I can change the readings. And usually when they come down off of the high ridge, just their energy alone changes the readings, So I'm doing a lot of readings and stuff like that. I'm into the frequencies and stuff like that now.
How do you do that? What's that process? How do you do the readings?
I have a bunch of equipment, not individual equipment, certain pieces that do 3 or 4 things each, and I'll get to a location. No, then don't get me wrong. I'm still using my night vision cameras and my thermal cameras and stuff like that. I've actually started incorporating the old school techniques with 35 millimeters and what are the other ones called? The ones that shoot the film out from inside the
Polaroids.
the Polaroids, yeah. Because I'm so tired of seeing blob squatches and people with 6 million red lines in a photograph and saying there's 13 Bigfoots. There's 13 Bigfoots in this tree, and there's one underneath that log. And so I figured,
You're not a fan of that?
No, I'm not a big fan of that.
No.
And I throw
Why not? Why not? The pretty little circles there.
I throw so much evidence away that doesn't meet my standards.
By the way, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that.
But
I've been up front with everybody. I don't see a lot of that stuff that people circle. To me, it just looks like a bunch of fuzzy branches and leaves and stuff.
Yeah, you know what? Even I mean, there are times where I see stuff, that looks like something, but what is it? I don't know, and so I started incorporating a lot of old school techniques with the 30. If it's on the negative, then it's there. If it's on the negative with the Polaroid, it's there.
But I will say one thing: if they want it, if the picture is specific for you, I've taken pictures myself where they've shown up where like it's dead obvious to me, and most people see it, but some people can't. So there is something to the fact that if it's for you, you're more apt and more liable to be able to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. Believe me, with the stuff I experienced in my life, I believe a lot of the stuff is for me. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
By the way, there was something you said that I wanted to interject on. You said, the people who study the Sasquatch and then get into the paranormal. But to me, the understanding of Sasquatch starts with the paranormal, because that's when you start really understanding about them. But I don't call that paranormal. I call it normal.
Yes,
to me, it's just their understanding of energy and vibration.
I don't, there's a lot of terms I don't like ghost hunting. I'm not a fan of. The woo, I hate the term the woo. Let's call it what it is. It's telepathic communication. That's what it is. It's not woo. Their ability to cloak. Again, I spent a lot of time with the Iroquois Nation. We have a museum up here, and I spend a lot of time there. And I talk to these people, and I go to the powwows where there's 4 or 5 different nations there representing, and I get to sit down with the elders and the medicine men, and I talk to them, and they all say the same thing. They walk between worlds, and these people know they will. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a researcher. He went from, again, the paranormal realm into the cryptid realm, and he believes that everything is flesh and blood. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I believe when they're here, they're flesh and blood too. But the more time you start spending in the woods, the crazier the stuff you're going to experience. And in time, you too will believe that there's more to it than just flesh and blood. You just haven't spent enough time in the woods yet, and but that's just me. And so it's just one man's opinion.
It's not an opinion. It's a fact, man.
Yeah. Well,
it's a fact. Come on.
Yeah, I know. I agree. It's a fact, but I don't want to come across as being arrogant and stuff like that. So I try to be.
But at the same time, people should be taking, like a lot of these so-called experts, they don't take and I don't care. I can care less what they think, but they don't take our opinions very seriously, because they're the experts, and they've been out in the field for 50 years and they never seen any of this stuff. It's because they don't, the Sasquatch don't want to show them that stuff, but they don't get that. But they have all those ability. I mean, I've seen him appear in my room out of a cloud of smoke. I've seen him appear out of thin air crossing the trail. I've had like profound downloads and lessons from him. These are very high spiritual evolved beings. These are not Magilla Gorilla running around in the woods, man. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You're not Magilla Gorilla, no.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you 100%.
If you're looking for Magilla Gorilla, you're not going to find him.
Yeah, and I think if you're looking for Magilla Gorilla, you're not really doing yourself any justice
No.
to be that close-minded and not to think. Like, my opinion on Sasquatch, as I've gotten older and I've gotten more experience with them or being in the woods, my opinions have changed like 100 times already. And not till I really started sitting down with the Native Americans up here and really studying, getting their insight on it, you know what I mean? And I feel like I'm getting the inside scoop now, and I've experienced so many crazy things that, especially in the woods, we've had so many things come through. I try to get out there on like the craziest nights too. Like 2 years ago, we had, in October, we had one day where there was no moon, zero moon, and a solar eclipse during the day. And I wanted to make sure I got out there for a day-night investigation on that day. And then like 2 weeks later, I think on Halloween, we had a full moon with a lunar eclipse, and the energies are changing on both occasions, and the woods, the stuff that you run across on those particular days, because I believe that only happens like every 14 or 15 years where those two things happen. And I wanted to make sure I was out there for that kind of stuff, especially now that I'm doing all the environmental readings with all the tools and everything that I'm using. I wanted to make sure I was out there for that, because in 15 years from now, I'll be way too old to hike 4 miles into the woods and then
Tell me about it.
another mile up into the mountains to get to the locations. So I wanted to do it now while I could still do it. And
That's a fact.
some of even the Appalachian Trail here in New York, there are parts of it where it's a goat trail. It's nothing but rocks and cliffs, and if you go down, you're going to break your head or your arm or your knee or something. You have to go slow and steady. And when you're crossing that at night, and you've been in the woods for 18 hours and the energy has made you loopy, it's slow going. You got to go slow and steady. So, yeah, and like I said, like I said, when I hear the term the woo, to me, that was created by the apers who wanted to make us look like idiots.
That's
know what I mean? So
exactly.
I don't like that term. To me, that's a very derogatory term to me. So I don't like it. I'm like I said, I'm not a big fan of ghost hunting. I'm not hunting anything. I'm not hunting ghosts. I'm not hunting Bigfoot. And to me, the paranormal, like you said, is normal. It's happening around us 24/7, 365 days a year. It's just that we don't see it or feel it every second of every day. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
exactly. Hey, so
Alfred, you were talking about measuring. What are you measuring?
energy, all kinds of energy, and anything from radiation to EMF to all kinds of different frequencies, just everything under the sun that you can measure. I'm measuring. What I'm doing is I'm incorporating tools to change that energy too, and frequencies will also not only do I incorporate frequencies or tools, but I incorporate like incense, just the incense alone. When the incense is in the air, that aroma will change different kinds of energies, and I do everything from Tibetan singing bowls to Native American flute music, you name it. I'm measuring it. I'm measuring it from the beginning. I'm measuring, and I do these measurements. I know I'm anal this way, but I'll do them all 250 every time I incorporate something new, just to see what is going to change on that graph. You know what I mean? And I find there are certain frequencies and there are certain aromas and vibrations that will not only bring the Sasquatch in, but other things that are in the woods to you as well. So that's just who I am now at this stage of my life. You know, if I get the $1 million photograph, I'll take it and I'll put it in my archive, and no one else will ever see it, or the video. Because at this stage of the game with AI, it doesn't matter what you get; everybody's going to claim it's fake. You know, so why even bother put it out there? I had a discussion with a guy the other night. He was claiming that there are no great videos out there or no great pictures, and I was like, I was actually on Vic Cundiv's show, Dogman Encounters, and there was someone in the chat room saying, "How come we don't have any great pictures?" And I was like, "They're out there. These photographs are out there, and these videos are out there, but the people who own them don't show them to the general public because they don't want the ridicule. You know, they don't need that nonsense. Why would you bring that on yourself? You know what I mean? Yeah, but they're out there.
I don't get that there's no great pictures thing, because I mean, yeah, there's a lot of weird pictures, but the Patterson film to me is definitive proof.
Absolutely.
You just stop there, man. That's the definitive proof. And what do you need other pictures for? You know, I mean, you cannot physically put a human body into that into Patty and have the elbows and knees and everything link up. It's not a human being. It's a fact. You know, it's just that these scientists who just say, well, Sasquatch doesn't exist, so Patterson film is fake. That's the extent of their research into it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, you know, me coming from a paranormal family, my mother was a psychic. My brother was one of the first parapsychologists in the United States. And I remember, God, I had to be like 10 years old. Okay. And me and all of my cousins went to the movies one Saturday to watch James Bond or something. And at the end of the movie, they had the Patterson, the trailer, you know?
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I remember taking a ton of ridicule from my cousins because I remember jumping up, and my gut feeling at that moment when I seen that video was, oh my God, this thing is real, you know? And I jumped up and I told my cousins, that is 100% the real deal. And yet, of course, I took a lot of ridicule from my family for it, or my cousins. But I've felt that way since I was 10 years old. From the first time I laid eyes on that video, my gut feeling, and that's what I call it, a gut feeling, said, oh my God, that's it. That's the real deal, you know?
That is, yep.
Well, the thing with that film is that the more that they dissect it, the more it proves it's real.
Yes, I agree.
The deeper they go into it, the more they realize it cannot be faked.
No, it can't be
That's
faked.
not a person in a suit.
There's one simple test you can put it to and prove it, and that's the intermembral index. All primates have an intermembral index, which is the ratio of your arm length to your leg length. In us, that ratio is 72. In Sasquatch, it's 84. You do that measurement with her, it's 84, and you can't change that.
There you go.
You know?
There you go. Yeah.
For me to go from 72 to 84, I'd have to add 4 inches to my arm. And it can't be an arm extender, because then the lower half of your arm's out of balance with the upper half of your arm.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and the only way to do it is put 2 inches below the elbow and 2 inches above the elbow.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that little step right there. Show me anything that has an 84 intermembral index that's human.
Yeah, no.
And
I don't even know what Andre the Giant's was, you know what I mean? But
his was, I measured it, it's 72.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Everybody's basically the same. It's just that, you know, you're taller,
you're taller and shorter. I got you.
Your
arms are in relationship
in proportion
to
your body. I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So if you come up with the intermembral, is it?
Intermembral,
intermembral index that has the Sasquatch links, and I can't remember exactly what they are, but that's got to be, you know, that pretty well proves that it's a Sasquatch. Yeah, 84 in the picture.
Yeah.
For the reasons Thom just said, you can't add the arm extensions on and all that kind of stuff.
No, absolutely. No, I mean that's amazing. Yeah.
And look at Bill Munn's work on that film. You know, it's unreal. I mean, he went through that film not only frame by frame, but layer by a layer of emotion within the frames.
Yes.
And and I've got a challenge coming up here in a couple of months. I've got to go into camp with MK Davis.
Okay.
And his massacre theory.
Yeah.
Which is pure bunk.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's some people swear to it, and some people, don't believe it. I don't know.
Wait a minute. We know Sasquatch. We know their behavior and how evolved they are, and we know they're not all the same. They're not all the same. But I think the ones in California are pretty similar to the ones in British Columbia. And the ones that I know are super evolved, and you're not even going to see them unless they want you to. How somebody can claim that they killed a whole family of Sasquatch does not make any sense to me. And plus the fact that if they did that, Patty's walking across there and looking back at them casually like she's not even concerned. The whole thing stinks. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've heard this theory recently come up, and I was like, prove it to me, because I don't know. I don't believe it really happened, but if it did, it's sad. It was a horrible thing, but I just don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, so I know NK does a lot of good work, though. I don't want to shoot his theory down. Right? I don't want to shoot his theory down. He's a good guy, and he puts a lot of time, effort, and energy into a lot of his stuff.
Absolutely. But there's a lot of good people out there. It's just some of them I don't agree with, which is okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
We're allowed to disagree with people, and actually, that's how things used to get worked out and how people used to learn stuff. You don't ever, like Thom says, you never learn anything from agreeing with everybody.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, but it's okay to disagree. Absolutely.
It used to be.
It used to be.
Hopefully it's going to be okay again. But
hopefully, maybe
it
someday.
wasn't there for a while.
Well, no, there for a while it got pretty nasty. Yeah, especially with the apers and stuff. And if that's what they want to believe, the more power to them. But
I was actually talking about in general.
No, I know you were talking in general, but I wanted to bring it back to the Bigfoot. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, you're good. You reeled me back into the subject matter. By the way, I heard that you were called the Godfather of Bigfoot. Is that what, or what? The Godfather of what?
I was on Chris Reinhardt's show many years ago, and he coined the phrase "the Squatch Father." And it just kind of stuck, and now everybody calls me the Squatch Father. I mean, and that's fine with me. I'm a greaseball from New York, so it's okay.
I thought it was the Godfather. Never the Godfather?
No, it was the Squatch Father.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, some people get it wrong. Some people get it wrong and call me the Godfather, but it's the Squatch Father.
Yeah.
Well, I'm one of those guys.
Arla and
I was just going to say that, Thom. That was what I was going to lead up to.
Yeah, I was the Pope, and she was the High Priestess of Wu. that was Steven Struper's group that coined that.
Yeah. Somebody always coins you with something, and I've had so many nicknames over my lifetime I can't even remember them all. So I just roll with it. When I first started doing the podcast interviews and stuff, it was mostly for the paranormal. Because my brother had written a book, and he took a couple of my experiences and put them in his book, and then all the hosts wanted to interview me. And they started calling me Al X-File Santariga. Back then, I was Al X-File Santariga, And one of the hosts from I think it was KGRA. He was a guy from Jersey, and he coined that. And I was Al X-File for a long time, and then when I started doing more Sasquatch stuff than paranormal ghost hunting stuff, Chris labeled me the Squatch Father. So we'll just I run with whatever you want to throw on me, I'm good. Yeah, I'm easy.
If they'd have known how much fun we were going to have with those titles, they'd have never done it.
And you know what? I got to be honest with you. There are people out there that I know that are jealous of those titles.
Yeah.
They get
Yeah.
jealous. Like, well, why
Yeah.
are you the Squatch Father? I don't know. Ex Chris, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Chris will tell you. And Chris says I called him the Squatch Father because he's Italian. He's from New York, and he sounds like a mafioso. You know what I mean? But instead of Godfather, I use Squatch Father, and that's how it evolved. It's not like I've never given myself any nickname I've ever had.
No. No.
Yeah.
I don't
So
understand those nicknames. That nickname thing. It's kind of like you're trying to elevate yourself above others by
Well,
having some fancy,
but
fancy.
but Brian, I've called you "Hey You" for years.
it's I don't think it's about that, to be honest with you. I mean, especially for people like me or
No,
Thom, who had the nicknames thrown upon them. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And then we just run with it. It's not
yeah.
like you know.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no.
But
I mean, some people may use it as thinking that they're more, they're better than other people, but I don't
Hmm.
think I'm
yeah,
better than anybody. And I tell people all the time when I do interviews, you don't have to believe a word I say. You know what I mean? But most
Hmm.
of my experiences are usually with other people who can validate what I'm saying.
yeah,
Right.
As a
yeah.
matter of fact, I did it. I did when I did the interview for Vic Condiff the other night. He wanted he wanted some dogman experiences from New York. So I put four of them together and I edited them down because I didn't know how much time I was going to have. But three of the four that I used were cases that Vic gave to me to investigate. And so I used them on the show. And one was another case that a friend of mine gave me, and I used them on the show. And I edited them down, knowing that these people were all on the show already, and his audience knew the stories.
Hmm.
So everything I left out, they already knew about. I had someone today post something saying, "Oh, I've heard this guy before. He's a real storyteller." It's like, dude, Vic gave me those encounters to investigate,
Hmm.
research. So if I'm a storyteller, then Vic's a storyteller because I used his experiences, and these people were on his show, to
Hmm.
validate their
Sure.
and everything I used. I made sure I only used experiences where there were eyewitnesses,
Right.
people who actually seen the creature. You know what I mean? I didn't want to put anything out there that was vague or it could have been another kind of animal. You know how it's
Hmm.
always a grizzly bear or a mountain lion, that attacks somebody. So
Hmm.
I like to use stuff that only has eyewitness accounts. And so I was like, this dude is killing me, calling me a storyteller when I'm using the stuff Vic gave me. So
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever. I
Yeah.
could care less. Yeah, if you want to, like I said, I don't like my wife and my son don't believe anything I say. They don't believe anything I say, and I say, come come with me into the woods just one time. Just come with me and experience, because I go out with my cousin who's 20 years old, 20-year-old kid, and he's experienced in the 6 times we've gone out, 3 times ghost hunting, 3 times squatching. He's experienced more stuff in those 6 times than most people experience in a lifetime. And I
Hmm.
say, so I tell my family, come with me. And you know what they tell me? I got better things to do than hike 4 miles into the woods and sit there and freeze my butt off all night.
Hmm.
Then why are you killing me when I talk about this stuff? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But
My
family's
fa-
tough on
my
you.
my family was the same way.
Were
So
they?
much so that I never told them what I was doing for 35 years.
Good for you.
Yeah, all I wanted to do was make a joke out of it.
Yeah, yeah,
And even back then, I knew that they deserved more respect than that.
yeah, yeah,
And,
absolutely.
so I just never told them what I was doing. It
Good for
wasn't
you.
it wasn't until 2009 that it came across. Well, I found the internet. I found the people like you guys
Yeah,
that I never knew this existed before then.
yeah,
And I found that, and then it opened up a whole new world for me. One of the first people I found was Arla Williams. Okay,
okay.
and it just opened up a whole new world for me.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I mean this stuff has been YouTube has been great for a lot of things.
mhm.
unfortunately, COVID made everybody a podcaster,
Right.
and the talent level has dropped a lot. When I first started doing podcasts 15 years ago, I guess it was now, I don't know. Most of the podcasters were ex-radio guys.
Right.
And they did their show like they would do a radio show. You
Right.
know what I mean? And there was pre-interviews, and you discussed what you wanted to talk about, and you know
Mhm.
what you were going to leave in, what you were going to leave out, what you could talk about, what you can't talk about. You know, and there was a lot of stuff going on before the show actually hit the air. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
when the show hit the air, it went off without a hitch, and it was very professional. You know.
What kind of stuff will they tell you can talk about?
No, you know, there are some networks that don't like people talking about black magic and stuff like that. You know, I have friends who are they're like a hoodoo priestess,
Mhm.
and you know, like stuff you wouldn't like. You know, it's just over the years she's helped me with a lot of cases where people have put like some love spells on people or curses on people, and there are
Mhm.
some networks that come out of like the sun, especially down south, you know, the Bible Belt. They
Right.
don't want to hear anything about dark demonic stuff like that,
Right.
you know. So they tell you what you can and what you can't talk about, and you know,
Mhm.
you know what you're going into, and it was, you know, it was all fun and dandy, you know, fine. I
So
mean,
are you
yeah,
saying,
Brian.
referring to, like, if you talk about Sasquatch and you tell them that they read your mind and they went invisible and quote me, that kind of stuff you can't talk about?
No, it was more like they didn't want to hear about people being mutilated or, you know, ripped apart or
Mhm.
you know what I mean. Not, you know, so much from the Sasquatch, but from the Dog Man or any kind of, like, I've had a lot of experiences with dark entities over my life. It's above my pay grade. I don't go into anything knowing that if there's dark entities involved. I got people I reach out to handle that stuff. But every now and again, you will come across stuff where you're going to experience something dark or negative, you know.
Mhm.
And down south, they really frown upon that stuff. So you just
They
try to
really
keep
do.
it. Yeah, you just try to keep it off. Just keep off that subject altogether, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah. Can you talk
Back.
about the differences that you found between dogmen? Sorry, Tom, between dogmen and Sasquatch? Um, because some people say that dogmen, some people have dogman teachers, and you know, some people say they're very similar to Sasquatch in the way that they will teach or interact with you. Some say their energy is a little more intense, maybe not stronger. But what
Yeah,
have you found?
their energy is definitely more intense, without a doubt. Yeah,
What
everyone
what have
I've
you found?
experienced.
What have you found? What are the differences between the two and similarities?
I've 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 never experienced any telepath. Well, you know what? I hear voices in my head. I don't know if it's my own voice that's guiding me. Sometimes I think it's my voice telling me to touch this, do that. Sometimes I hear voices like I'll hear something that'll tell me, you know, you better stop right there and don't go any further,
Mhm.
you know. And I don't know if it's my little voice in my head that guides me, or if it's telepathic communication from a cryptid telling me I'm getting too close to its den or
Yeah.
whatever, you know.
I'm
So
wondering. I'm wondering. I get thought placement all the time. I'm wondering if you're getting that. Sounds like you might be getting that. Thought
I
placement is
don't
like
know.
a form of telepathy too. Have you ever thought, like, I wonder if the Sasquatch did this, or I wonder if it's like this, and then there's the answer as soon as you have the thought? Do you get stuff like that, or you ask a question and then there's a, you know, something? Well, like I said, some answer is like immediate, and you know it's not a coincidence. Do you get that?
Yes, the little light bulb goes on and you get the answer. Absolutely, I do get that. But like I said, with
But I
this
mean, I'm
last,
talking dramatic. Like sometimes it's a physical glyph or something, like a physical like thought answer. Like that's like telepathy and thought. I think you're getting that. I think we all get that. I think
okay,
some of us don't recognize it though.
yeah, I mean,
It's
I'm sure there's stuff. I still question everything I experience. You know what I mean? I question it. Like when I'm out with my cousin and I'm seeing something or I'm experiencing something, I'll ask him to look in the same direction I'm looking and describe what he's seen just to make sure we're both seeing the same thing. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you see stuff out there and you can't wrap your head around it. Like I've experienced gnomes, and fairies and stuff like that. And I'll say, okay, what are you seeing? And they'll describe us like a garden gnome. And I'll say, okay, that's what I'm seeing too. But, I didn't know if I was hallucinating or not because, I'm seeing a garden gnome. I mean, so I get crazy stuff with this last experience with the Sasquatch. I have a white one that comes to me telepathically in my dreams. His name is Alfred, and he claims to be like a king shaman. He's an ancient one. And in my dream, one time he told me to go to a certain location and to cleanse it and seal it first. So I went there, and I don't usually go out to these locations by myself. But when he tells me to go do something, I do, and I get out there as quick as I can. And then recently he came to me in a dream, and I get visited by a female too. And she told me her name was Hyaneth. I don't know if she's an alpha female or what her deal is with her. But she came to me first before Alaric did. But in the last experience I just had, there's a high ridge to our west, I call the sacred site. Okay. And there's a high ridge, and I made a deal with the Sasquatch many, many moons ago that their home range is on the other side of that ridge. I'm not going to go up on that ridge when I'm here, but if they could come down and visit me, that would be great. And I made this deal with them many, many years ago, and I've never gone up that ridge. I just, there's no way I'm going to break that deal. Well, recently, Alaric came to me, and I seen him in a dream, and he was up on the ridge, and he was waving me up. And I was explaining to him in this dream state that no, I don't go up there. I made the deal with the clan many, many years ago that I won't go over this ridge into their home range. And he just kept waving me up. It's like, you're with me, you can come up. So I said, okay. So I called my psychic, my team psychic, and I asked her. And he came to her too, and she's in Arkansas. And she said, no, if he's waving you up, then, he wants you to see something, so go up. So when I went up there with my cousin the last time, again, I've never been up on this ridge. And the ridge from where we sit at the sacred site, it looks like the point of the ridge, the peak of the ridge. But when we actually went up there, my cousin and I, when we got to what we thought was the peak, it actually went back another 200, 300 yards, and then it dropped off to a sheer cliff face and down into their home range. So even if I wanted to go down into their home range, I'd have to propel down with a rope or something, you know what I mean? I can't get down there. But when we were up on the ridge, I was being pulled to the right. My cousin was being pulled to the left. My cousin's a very sensitive kid, very sensitive. I swear to God, I'll think something while we're at a location, and a minute later, he'll say what I'm thinking. And this happens to us all the time. I don't know how he can hear my thoughts, but I swear to God, he hears my thoughts. But when we were up there and he's filming on one end and I'm filming on the other, and we're taking photographs and we're filming, he's saying the same thing I'm saying. Now, this is this kid, the third time this kid has ever gone out Sasquatching, on an expedition. And he's saying the same thing I'm saying. We're filming these indentions in the ground, these holes, and we both feel the energy we're getting is that these are nests, But unfortunately, we got there at the end after Halloween, and they were filled with leaves, just tons and tons of leaves. I would have loved to have been able to get there earlier to see what was on the ground under the leaves, as bedding. But we're looking at him, and he's filming, and I'm filming, and we're taking pictures, and we end up in the middle of the ridge, and he's like, are these nests? And I go, yeah, I believe these are nests. So then I took a step back. I went back. Something told me to back up, get higher, and look at these indentions. And when I looked at them from a distance, it reminded me of foxholes in the army, where each hole is away from the one in front of it. So no matter what nest you're in, your view is not being blocked by the clan in front of you, you know? And I was like, holy, like the little light bulb went up and I was like, holy crap, these are like foxholes. These are nests. You know, I've found structures that had bedding in them. I found like TP structures that had bedding. And I know they weren't made by man because they had, 6-inch logs weaved through them all the way up. And I don't know how you weave a 6-inch log through other 6-inch logs around them. But I found nests like that before, and I've been in there and I've seen the bedding in them. And I've also found nests that look like giant eagles' nest, but I've never found nests that were indentions in holes in the ground. This was something new for me. And and it's funny that every time we go out, or anytime Alaric comes to me and we go out, we have these new experiences that I've never experienced before. And people say, "Oh, you've been doing this your whole life. You must have seen everything." And you say, "No," because every time I go out, I find something new. Yeah. Something new happens, and it's like it rejuvenates you every time you go out because you get excited to find something, And the first thought to me came when I seen these nests. I was like, oh man, I wish there wasn't like 3 feet of leaves in there because I would love to dig down and see what they're using for their bedding, And then I explained to my cousin, because again, he's a 20-year-old kid. He's just getting started in this. I explained to him, I said, we have to take video of the whole location to show everybody what the debunkers are going to say these things are. And I said, the first thing they're going to say is there were trees here and the trees fell down. And, these holes are made from trees. Well, look, there are no down trees around us. There are no giant root balls sticking up in the air. So these weren't trees. And trees don't grow in foxhole formation, And then I said, other people are going to claim that there are rocks in here that got washed away from the rain because it's on a 45-degree angle. Well, let's take pictures below us and see if there are any rocks wedged against any of the bigger trees below us, the oak trees and stuff like that, to prove that there's nothing washed out of these holes, And I was trying to show them that this is what you have to do to debunk this stuff, because people are going to have all kinds of theories, And I thought I looked at it as a learning moment for him, and I just wanted to just let him sink that into his head, because there's always someone who's going to have something to say about any evidence, Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, so you've had a lot of interaction with First Nations people or Native American elders and shaman and whatever. And you said that they say that the Sasquatch people, and the three of us know this. You said that they walk between worlds.
Yeah, that's what they said.
What else are they saying about them? What are the native elders saying about the Sasquatch people, who they are? And
well, they say they're an ancient tribe of people, and that they're interdimensional, and that the reason why we never find any bodies or bones is that when they pass on, if they pass on in this dimension, they take them back to where they're from, and they say that they've been coming here for, thousands of years because, this location, this realm has so much food for them, and there's all kinds of stuff out here. And also there are certain like plants that they use for medicinal purposes. And there are certain plants that they use as food to cook with, and they were just telling me all of this stuff. And that's one of my ways of bringing them in when I'm there. And I know like there's an aroma that they'll come in to see because this certain plant blooms at a certain time of the year. And that time of the year has passed, right? So there's no way that aroma should be out there. And I like that. And I like that incense. And it puts that aroma out there. And they like, ooh, we got a late bloomer or something, And they come in to look, And that's how I, get them in. But my psychic tells me that they know I'm coming before I ever get there. Like I'm hooked up. I'm synced into them. Like the minute I say I'm going out next month, on an expedition, they know I'm coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Absolutely. Time is not linear for them. They know
no,
exactly what you're going to do, like even years before you do it. That's how
and
they can set up all these breadcrumb trails of lessons or whatever, and like these thought placement, thought and answer, because they have that ability, right?
yeah. Well, I always claim intention. Intention is a biggie. They know your intentions before you even make it out to the woods. And
Absolutely.
if you're going to go out there with bad intentions, you're never going to see one. Are you going to go out there with a negative energy that you don't believe that they exist? Why would they spend the time and energy to show themselves to you?
They know what you're all. They know what you're all about. There are men. As a matter of fact, my guy, my ex co-host, Mike Carroll, met a guy who he could look at you. This guy was a fully enlightened man.
Okay.
He could look at you, and he could see like almost like a holographic image over top of you, and he could see your life from birth to marriage to all the important events that happen to death. They have that ability, and that's what the Sasquatch have that ability too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you say so, I believe you, but that's, above my pay grade. You know what I mean?
No,
Like I'm
they
just
definitely
starting
do.
to deal with the telepathic communications, so I'm very excited about that, having Hyanet come to me or having Alaric come to me. And it's funny because Alaric, not only has he come to me here in New York, he's come to Chris in Connecticut and
Sure.
my psychic in Arkansas, the three of us in three different states. He's come to all three of us, at different times.
Yeah.
And it's, and my psychic is half Native American. She's Cherokee and she's like fifth generation. So like she sees the minute I start like planning something, an investigation, she starts to get images, and she'll call me and say, okay, what are you up to? Where are you going? And yada yada yada, like this is what you're going to see, and this is what this is what you're going to experience. And I never go into anything believing a word that she says, even though she's always right. She's been right, and I've tested her, and she's always been right. I never go into anything thinking, okay, Cindy says we're going to see this, let's wait. No, I go there to experience what happens at any given moment. You know what I mean? I'm not looking for any particular thing that she says is going to happen, because I know it's going to happen. I'm just looking to experience time at that moment in time. You know what I mean? Whatever I'm supposed to experience in that moment of time, that's what I'm there for, and not anything else that I was told was going to happen. I never go into anything looking for anything. Yeah. I just take it as it comes. And at the end of the day, when I check all the boxes, everything she says is usually right on, So
yeah. I want to ask you guys' opinion on something. There's a lot of intelligent, well, they seem to be. I've talked to a lot of the experts who thinks that who thinks that well, some of them don't even think that Sasquatch exists. There's that wrong. And then there's the guy who thinks they do exist, but are on like the 8th level. But what I can't understand is I've met some of these guys. Some of them seem very articulate and intelligent and whatever. How can they reconcile the fact that every Indian tribe in North America talks about these people, that they exist? That's one thing. Most of them do think that the investigator, but talk about their abilities and whatever and all these things, and yet they completely ignore that. How can you completely ignore that when every single tribe that had no connection with each other is saying the identical things? How is that possible?
I don't know. That's mind-boggling.
Is it just ego because they've never experienced it and they don't want to admit there's something more out there? What is it?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. Well, I have to see it for myself to believe it. That kind of mentality. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
What you're listening to when you're listening to the Native Americans is you're listening to verbal tradition.
Yeah, verbal history,
oral tradition. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, where's the hard evidence?
Yeah.
These people thrive on hard evidence. and
It's
little
it's at
else.
the top of the totem pole.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And that's their criteria. Then that's their only criteria.
But hard evidence also stops you, and it can only take you so far because you don't want to move beyond that knowledge or that evidence, right? When
Well,
something else presents itself to you, which
yeah,
they don't, which doesn't seem to be
there's
happening too much.
very few that will investigate without that hard evidence. Very few, even in history. Grover Krantz, yeah, he did. Even Jeff Meldrum does. But you can't make a presentation in a scientific setting without hard evidence.
Yeah, you need physical evidence, hard
Yeah.
physical evidence. Absolutely, yeah. But like we've have hard physical evidence. We have the cast. We
I'm
have
sorry, but I just wanted to make this, but they just, sorry, Alfred.
Yeah,
Okay,
go for it.
I just want to finish this point, but they dismiss it out of hand. Like evidence, but they're not even open to it. Like,
No, they're not.
and like, I don't know. I mean, that's not science and that's not learning as far as I'm concerned. When something new is presented to you, you should be considering it and looking into it, I would think.
Which begs the point. You can send a person to the gas chamber on that type of
physical evidence, yeah.
Yeah, lack of physical evidence, but verbal evidence, eyewitness testimony can send a person to the gas chamber, but it can't prove a point. And it doesn't make sense to me. It's that's a dichotomy. We in 2016, we were in camp in Georgia. There were 18 of us sitting around a campfire, and 2 Sasquatch came and stood right behind me. And I've had people call me a liar for saying that. As you just called 18 people liars, including a Superior Court judge who lost his marriage over that incident because his wife wouldn't accept it.
Jesus.
And kept forcing him to say it didn't happen, and he couldn't, and she left him.
Wow, that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Yeah.
That had to be a religious thing, maybe, or something.
Well, yeah, what it is, like I said, a lot of people, especially again down south. Not that I'm killing the people down south. I love the Southerners here in New York and the United States, but they look at these creatures and they see shadows in the woods, and they think they're demonic. Everything is demonic. Everything is a negative entity. It's not a higher, a vibrating frequency creature. It's something that vibrates at a low level, and it's not true. Just because you see a shadow in the woods doesn't make it a demon.
Right? Exactly. There's
well,
lots
that's what
of things
religion.
out
That's
there
what
we don't know
religion
about.
tells us, though, right?
Does it?
Yeah, but your own
Mine
eyes.
doesn't.
You have to see with your own eyes. You know what I mean?
What I mean is that if anybody who gives you any, like for Christianity, for instance, anybody who gives you any universal answers or stuff, if it's not coming from Christ, they think it's demonic or don't listen to it or disregard it.
That's because their own view is that narrow.
Yes, absolutely. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
But that was an example of it. Tom, you were going to say something, and I kind of like rudely interrupted you. I know it's way too long ago for you to remember. Did you want to talk about some of your? Hold on a second. I did write some stuff down. Okay, so the First Nations or the First Nations people, we call them in Canada. So they basically just talk about them in the way that we understand them, right? Like
I like that designation, by the way, far better than Native Americans, because I'm a Native American. I was born here. Okay, but I'm not First Nations.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think First Nations is a very
I think it's a very, very good descriptive term.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, if that's what you like, I feel more comfortable saying Native American, but I'm from New York, so most of the people from New York say Indian, what I mean? But
I do
I
too.
don't want to use the term Indian. I use Native American out of respect for them.
Mhm.
But I know everybody in Canada calls them First Nations people. So, but
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, whatever floats your boat.
Mhm.
And it
So
took a long time for these people to trust me, going back to the museum over and over and over again, and you know, getting to know them personally, and getting to know the elders, and then getting to know the medicine men, and then following them on their powwows and stuff, because they do like 2 or 3 powwows around here every summer, and I always like to go because I'm a very inquisitive person. I like to ask a lot of questions,
Mhm.
It drives my family nuts, and because I always got one more thing I want to ask. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you that, and
Mhm.
it drives my wife crazy or my kids crazy because I'm the type of person that if we make eye contact, we can get into a conversation like we've known each other our whole lifetimes, and it
Yeah.
drives my family absolutely nuts. But if I don't ask questions, especially in that moment, then how am I going to ever learn anything,
That's right.
So
yeah,
That's right.
what would be the
that's
one question you would ask Thom if you could only
oh,
ask him one question?
I don't know. That's putting me on the spot. I don't know. Thom is royalty to me. You know what I mean? So I've asked Thom questions over the years.
Mhm.
I've reached out to him and sent him text messages on Messenger or whatever, and
Mhm.
asked him questions. But I can't pull something out of the hat. No, I'm in front of royalty, and I'm a little,
Don't
taken
say
by
that.
it. Yeah, no, I am. I'll be honest with you.
That term has come up a lot lately, and
Yeah.
it's disconcerting.
So how
Hey,
so how long you been
it's
at
meant
this?
out of respect.
Thank
How
you.
long you been at in the Sasquatch game there, Alfred?
I
There's a
feel like
question behind it.
my whole life. I mean, I seen my first one at 12 years old. You know what I mean? So, um,
Tell us that story.
Yeah, tell us that
no, I
story.
told that story before. It was a very violent episode. You know what I mean? And do you really want me to talk about it? Because I know Brian is more. The Sasquatch aren't so violent, where I believe that there can be times where they are,
Oh,
so
I didn't say that. I think they're people, and they can all be. They can have a range of emotions like people.
Well,
But
I
I
agree.
generally, they're more respectful to
I
us.
think
Generally,
I
they don't
think
want. They'll leave you alone, and generally, it's a last resort kind of thing. And also sometimes I think their violence is a direct response to how people interact with them.
exactly.
You could have the exact same Sasquatch individual and go up to them, and one person would have an experience where he thought it was the most magical thing that ever happened. The other person is going to say, I just barely escaped with my life. It was going to kill me. And I
Yeah,
was terrified.
absolutely.
And it could be the exact same experience. So
Yeah.
I do think, but once again, they're not all angels, I don't think. And some of them don't want anything to do with us for sure.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think
So
most of them don't want anything to do with us. They know how violent and what we are capable of. They've been watching us kill each other for thousands of years.
yeah.
So
Why
Yeah.
don't you, instead of talking about a real violent episode, why don't you talk about you came into this with as a kind of a flesh and blood guy initially, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So talk about some of the things that went on over the years that really changed your opinion, where you said, "Oh, okay, there's really a lot more going on here than I realized." Maybe some of your favorite lessons or something that showed you who these guys were.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, if you spend any amount of time in the woods, you'll have experiences that just doesn't add up, doesn't make any sense. If they're flesh and blood, then how are these things happening again? I mean, we've been in the woods where you know we've heard them walk over to us like a herd of elephants, boom, 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 right?
Hmm.
Whoop at us, loud, clear, throw stones at us. Not so much to hurt us or anything, but maybe to get
Hmm.
us to move on or something. And then there are times when we're sitting in locations and you hear a voice in your ear
Hmm.
and there's nobody there, but you just don't hear a voice. You feel the pressure of air going into your ear, and you turn around, or you get touched and there's nothing there, and then you hear something run off, but you can't see it, or you'll be sitting there and you hear them come in, and they're up on the ridge and they're watching. Usually they send a scout down. He's like the first one that comes down to see, and they'll send the scout down, and and like I said, I call it a gut feeling. I don't claim I'm psychic by any stretch of the imagination, but I get things come to me. I can't do stuff, but things come to me, and I'll say, I'm feeling that there's something up there between that tree, and we'll be looking up at that tree, and we can hit it with a spotlight and not see anything, or just sit there in the dark, and then all of a sudden you see a ball of light come out of nowhere, a perfect ball of light, and move off to your right and circle around you, and then that ball of light blinks out, and that same feeling that I got that there was Sasquatch in front of me, now I'm feeling to the right of me where that ball of light is, and I'm like, and I think that it's like when they go into that higher frequency vibration thing, and sometimes it's a ball of light, sometimes it's a flash of light, and I think when it's a flashlight, again, one man's opinion, don't kill me on this, I think when there's a flash of light, a blue light or something like that, they're going in and out of dimensions. I think when they're traveling in an orb kind of manner, they're just traveling around you to either not scare you, because let's face it, I tell people all the time, when you see these things up close and personal, and your brain cannot comprehend what your eyes are seeing, because monsters aren't supposed to exist, and these things are 10 feet tall, 2,000 pounds, and they got shoulders that are 4 or 5 feet wide. They're huge. They're absolutely huge, and just the sight of them is intimidating. Not that they're doing anything to intimidate you. Exactly. It's just their size that's intimidating, It
is.
Yeah. And then or you catch like that what's it called? That predator kind of motion,
Right.
Go through the woods, but it's moving in like a way a human would run,
Right.
And when you see all of these things, then you can't sit there and tell me that they're just flesh and blood apes, because flesh and blood apes can't transfer into these kind of dimensions, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the right word is for it, but these kind of abilities, you know what I mean? Just don't have these kind of abilities. And when you're sitting out there,
these manifestations,
manifestations. That's a great word for it. Yeah,
I like that predator thing you said. I've seen them in predator mode.
Yeah, I've seen them too.
I was camping out in the woods, way back in the woods. Spent the night, and they were walking all around me in predator mode, and it looked like a kind of a shimmery, kind of an outline, and in the middle it was kind of like watery, kind of liquid, watery. I don't know, whatever it was.
I seen something recently that I've never seen before in my life. I'm going to work 4 o'clock in the morning, and I pull down to the corner. Now I got 100 acres of apple orchards behind me, and I have 100 acres of wetlands across the street from me. Okay. And I'm going to work 4 o'clock in the morning. It's pitch black, and I'm down at the corner at the stop sign, and I'm just sitting there, and I see something come out of the swamp, the wetlands, and it looks like a misty, smoky, kind of foggy looking thing, but yet it's vertical. It's kind of like in a pointy kind of shape at the top, and I see it just glide across the road like it's not really walking, but inside that smoky kind of mist, I see what looks like an arm moving up, like an arm moving. And as I see the arm go forward, I see a leg a leg move as well. And I'm like, I know it's early in the morning and I know I'm tired, but I just seen something and move, and it went behind a building on the corner where I live. There's a bank on the corner, and it went up behind the bank, and it went up into the apple orchard. So instead of making the hard left to go to the parkway, I made the right into the bank parking lot,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I get out of my car because I work armed security, so I have a flashlight on me. I get out of my car and I'm thinking, oh, these people are going to think I'm robbing the bank, 4 o'clock in the morning. They see me go behind the bank, but I got my flashlight out and I'm looking up into the woods with this powerful flashlight, and I don't see anything moving, but you can hear like the leaves crunching as something is
Mhm.
going. But when it went across the street, it looked like it glided. Like it didn't look like it was actually touching the ground. But yet I
Mhm.
seen a leg and an arm. Now I never heard that before. I seen that, and I was recently talking to Daryl Denton, I think it was, and Daryl seen the same thing at Land Between the Lake, and
Mhm.
I reached out to him and I was like, and I told him what I seen and what I believed it was, and he told me what he's seen too, and he was there for I think a Dogman thing, but he believed that it was a Bigfoot as well. And I was like, well, because they come through my yard all the time. Okay,
Mhm.
sometimes they walk past and you don't know they're there. Sometimes they'll make noise so they're coming through. Um, I got a couple of my neighbors have tin sheds. Sometimes they'll bang on the shed as they walk through. Sometimes they'll just walk through because I'll be sitting at my fire pit in the summertime and I'll have the fire going. I may have my telescope out watching the sky or something. And I'm sitting there and having a cold beer and I'm just listening to a show on the radio or something. And they'll come by and they'll let me know. They'll do a tree knock, or in the morning, I'll find like sticks woven in the back. I have two backyards. I have an immediate backyard. Then I have like a stone wall. Then I have a backyard that leads into the woods. And I'll go past that stone wall. As soon as you pass the stone wall, there'll be sticks woven together, like to let you know they were there. Um, or I'll find quartz crystal stones on my I have a red brick fire pit. They'll put quartz crystal stones on my red brick fire pit to let me know that they came by. But yeah, I mean, but I've never ever in my wildest imagination ever seen anything like that smoky mist kind of thing before. And I was like, I called my
Mhm.
psychic. I was like, what did I just see? And she said, "You seen a Sasquatch in a cloaked kind of form, and it was using that smoky mist kind of form to hide itself from you." But that's what it was. But it's still, even though it was in that smoky, misty kind of foggy form, I don't even know how to describe it. I did see an arm and a leg at one point, so it was crazy. I thought I was hallucinating at 4 o'clock in the morning, but it
Mhm.
was pretty crazy. And I mean, not too many people I know have seen that until I heard Daryl talk about it one time. And I was like, oh, I got to reach out to him because I know Daryl, we're friends, and I had never known that he had that experience.
Let me add some co correlative. Correlative, is that right? Correlative evidence of that? Something that
Corroborative.
collaborative, yeah.
Corro- Corroborative.
Collaborative. Sorry.
Collaborative. There you go.
Mhm.
I actually knew that. It's just true. I don't know. Collaborative
It's
evidence.
just
Uh,
testing your Tom.
about the smoke or whatever, I've had the same kind of experience, so that that's credibility to your story and other people's stories. Is that I was laying in bed one night I just laid down and I saw a cloud of mist appear in my room, like a cloud of smoke or a cloud of mist. And Ari, my clan leader, materialized in the mist, like he became sharper and sharper and sharper his image until he was just standing there looking at me in the mist. So that's a good story that kind of talks about what you've experienced and that they do travel in that way. And you've experienced that, and then the people that you talk to that experienced it too. So it just has more credibility to all our experiences when we talk about these things, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Openly.
and it's something I've never experienced before. Like I said, like I've seen the balls of light, I've seen the shimmering kind of effect. I've seen them. I've seen nothing but heard them walking by. You know what I mean? Crunching in the leaves. I didn't see. There were times where they were completely invisible, especially in at night. And if you don't have your
Mhm.
headlamp on and you're looking at them through night vision goggles or something, you don't see anything, but you hear the leaves crunching and stuff. But
Yeah.
but that was the first time I ever seen that, and I was like, well, it must be going up into the apple orchard because there's tons of deer behind my house because of
Mhm.
the apple orchards. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, we had a herd of them in the yard this morning, eating all the bird feeder food out of the bird feeder. So I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if there was one coming up when we consider this the highlands, to maybe hunt a deer or something, or looking for some kind of food or something because there was an apple season, so there wasn't any apples up here, but we have tons of turkey as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just crazy stuff. I mean, that, and I hate when I experience something by myself because then I have no one to validate it.
Exactly.
And that's why I always like to have somebody, even with the UFO stuff that I sent you. I had my wife come outside and validate that, because first of all, I didn't see it. She was the one who seen it. And second of all, the stuff that we experienced, I mean, I actually asked the thing if you could hear me telepathically, acknowledge me. And it flashed, the minute I said that
Yeah.
telepathically, it flashed. So I was like, oh, wow, it is watching me, and it can hear my thoughts, even though it's a craft up in the sky, so pretty wild stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
From
Did
where?
you?
From where?
That's
Uh,
just Dutchess
Yeah.
County, New York. Yeah.
I,
Up
I
in
mean,
Hudson Valley.
I mean, it's a craft, but a craft from where?
Oh yeah. Well, that's $1 million question. Absolutely. Yeah.
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 Did you
I
want to look at
get
some of your pictures or no?
and again, I get Tom. I get vibes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I see a light in the sky, especially now with all the drones, every police force in New York State uses drones. And when
Right.
I see a light in the sky, I don't pay it any mind, unless the little voice in my head says, "Pay attention to this. It's important." Like the one that flashed me. All the UFOs I seen that particular month were at night. But the
Mhm.
one that flashed me was there at 4 o'clock in the morning when I was going to work. And I was like, I gotta be honest, I was really, really tired. And I just waved to it. I said, "Yeah, how you doing? I'm going to work. I'm too
Mhm.
tired for this." But then the little voice said, "Stop, pay attention to this."
Right.
So then I started filming it. And then the thought came to me, and I don't know if it was my thought or the little voice telling me, the thought came to me, well, tell this craft telepathically if it can see you to acknowledge you. And that's what I
Mhm.
did, and it flashed. This was one of the first ones that caught our eye. And this one actually is rotating, changing colors and everything. And if you blow it up, I call it, it looks like a germ underneath the magnifying glass because that's
Mhm.
what it looks like to me. But it's changing all different colors, and it's rotating. I think it's rotating counterclockwise, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting. Yeah. And you caught this right in New York?
Caught that right off my front deck.
Hmm.
Right.
And this was before all the drone stuff that happened in New York State and New Jersey.
Mhm.
Yeah. So this was not a drone, believe me.
I wonder what's going on. What do you think is going on with those drones? What's the
That
story
was
behind that?
military exercises. They got new technology they wanted to test out on the general public. That's all it was. People were calling me like the end of the world is happening. And I was like, listen, the government knows what it is. It's military technology. They got something new. They're testing out on us. They don't want
Mhm.
us to know
Yeah.
about it because technically by law through the Constitution, they're not allowed to do that to us, but they do it all the time. So
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about with this video here?
no, it's just like this particular video when we seen it the very first time my wife seen it, it looked like a gold star in the sky, you know? And she was getting ready to close the curtains. And she said, "Hon, what is this?" And I went out and I looked at it. And, you know, jokingly, I said, "Oh, it's Venus. It's always Venus," you know?
Right.
But I have a star app on my phone and a planet app that I use when I skywatch with my telescope. So I went out and I pulled up all the constellations, and it wasn't any kind of constellation. And I pulled up all the stars and the planet app, and it wasn't any of the planets that were lining up in the night sky. So I was like, I wonder what. So I started filming it, and you know, it came back 4 weeks in a row. And the first night I filmed it, I had all of my high-tech gear packed in the car because we were going squatching the next day on an expedition. So I was using my cell phone. And the second time it came back, I had all of my high-tech stuff on tripods waiting for it all week. And then when it came back the second time, I filmed it. Now here's the interesting thing. It showed up in every spectrum of light except thermal. It did not show up in thermal. It wasn't putting off any heat. But it showed up in infrared, and it showed up in full spectrum, and it showed up, yeah, but not in thermal. Yeah, it would not show up in thermal. Now, this was the one that actually acknowledged me when I asked it if you could see me, acknowledge me, and it actually flashed. What I thought was a flash originally, when I looked at it right there, when I looked at it on the camera, it actually expanded like 10 times its normal size, and then it shrunk right back down.
Wow.
Which was crazy. I mean, I'd never seen anything do that before.
No.
You know? And that was in the early morning sky. Normally, I was seeing these things between 7:30 and 8:30 at night. This was 4:30 in the morning, you know? So it was pretty wild. And then when it came back, when the third time it came back, I have these high powerful binoculars that I use when I go to the range, okay? Because I'm old and I can't see 200 yards down range, right? So I pulled out my binoculars and I says to my wife, "Look at this, tell me what you see." Because at the naked eye, it looks like a gold star. But in the camera, it looks like a germ that's spinning counterclockwise. So she looked at it and she said it looked like a squid with tentacles hanging down. I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So I grabbed the binoculars from her and I looked. And when I looked, the tentacles weren't hanging down anymore. They were facing west. They were up on a vertical position facing west, and not horizontal facing west, and not vertically facing down. So I was like, this thing is so weird. It keeps changing shape. You know, every time you look at it through a different spectrum of light or something, it changes shape. It was just so crazy. And then the last time it came was really weird. I'm looking at it up in the sky, and the fourth time it came, I was doing a Morse code with a tactical flashlight, right? And it was flashing me back, and it was coming towards me. And as soon as I put the flashlight down to pick up the camera, it stopped. Well, the last time it came, I pulled out my 1500 Luma flashlight, the big boy, and I was doing a Morse code with that. And I just kept that flashlight on that craft for like 10 minutes. And as I was doing the Morse code, the SOS was what I was doing. Out of nowhere, and I don't know what happened to the craft, out of nowhere, a Cessna plane appeared and flew directly at me. And I don't know where this Cessna came from. We have a local airport up here. And when those planes land at the airport or they fly over the house, they sound like crop dusters. You can hear them from a mile away. This thing appeared from behind the UFO. I don't know if the UFO moved, if it went invisible, or if the UFO turned into the Cessna. I don't know. All I know is I kept this Morse code flashlight on this Cessna airplane as it flew over my house. It was flying northeast, like up to Massachusetts. And the whole night, I was waiting for either the sheriff or the state police to knock on my door to ask me what the problem was. Because I figured if it was a pilot, he would know what an SOS is, you know, and he would report it. But no one ever came to the house that night. So for the life of me, I don't know where that Cessna came from. I don't know where the UFO went to, but it was just very, very strange.
I wonder if you were in some kind of like other dimension or between dimensions or something kind of thing.
I don't know. I mean, I was sitting, for all I know is I was standing on my front deck, 7:30 at night with my 1500 luma flashlight doing a Morse code.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing, you know. I wanted to make sure it's seen. I mean, I'm sure you could see the little tactical flashlight, but you can't miss the 1500 lumas,
Right.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
Amazing.
interesting. Amazing.
Yeah, it's wild stuff. I mean, I
It
can't
is.
explain it. You know, I truly can't explain it. But this is stuff that's been happening to me my whole life. You know,
Mhm.
So why don't you
whether
tell
it's
us? Why don't you
yeah.
tell us the story about the gnome? How did you meet the gnome, and what did he look like, and what's that
Oh
all about?
wow, I went out and scouted a location with my cameraman. We decided to go to a place of high strangeness. It had a lot of Bigfoot activity, and it had a lot of UFO activity. So we decided to go out and scout this location. And while we were out scouting, we were up on a ridge on the eastern part of the woods, and there's a 52-acre lake in the middle of the woods. And we were up on this ridge, and we found 3 quartz crystal stones set up in like a pyramid shape. Okay. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I think we'll start here and then we'll work our way back to a location we called the Meadow, which the Appalachian Trail came right out onto. And then we were going to get on the mining road and head south out towards the ranger station. There's actually a campsite off the lake. It's not a campsite, but people camp there illegally. And people have seen Sasquatches at this location coming to the campsite. So we said, okay, it was Hallows Eve. There was a meteor shower that night, and I like to do stuff I like to go daytime, nighttime investigations because I know the energies change from day to night, and I like to go old school, new school. You know, all high tech stuff, all old, low tech stuff because you never know what's going to work. So we're on this high ridge, and there's these 3 crystal stones set up in a pyramid shape, and we're filming it. And we brought 2 quartz. We brought a rose quartz crystal skull and a clear crystal skull with us, and we were going to put them on the 2 stones to see if we can get the energy jumping from one to the other because the quartz is a receiver, you know, and the clear is a transmitter. So we were going to see if we could amp up the energy in the location to get the energy to jump. So it's filming it, and we wasn't getting anything to happen, and we're filming it in thermal, and the stones were ice cold, and we couldn't get them. So then we called our psychic up, and she said, "Okay, at this location, you're gonna experience, you're gonna experience a Bigfoot here, and so all kinds of stuff. You're gonna have all kinds of stuff happen at this location." Okay. At one point, I was using a parabolic mic, and I caught what sounded like a Morse code coming out of the sky. And we recorded it, and everybody had their theories on it, and some of us were saying it was a phone tower or a radio tower, and I was saying, oh, it could just be a UFO in the sky shaped as a cloud, you know what I mean, transmitting. So as we're filming, I decided to break out a Tibetan singing bowl and fill the woods with frequency and vibration. And the minute I started using that Tibetan bowl, the energy of the woods changed. Everything that went through the roof. Didn't have a Geiger counter on me that day, but I can guarantee you that the radiation levels went through the roof because my whole body was tingling, my tongue, my teeth, my fingers. When we called the psychic back, she couldn't even talk to us. It sounded like she had palsy. You know what I mean? She's like, I had to move like 100 feet or 100 yards away for her to talk. It sounded like she had cerebral palsy. And she's like, what the hell did you guys do? And we said, well, we introduced, frequency and vibration through Tibetan singing bowl. And she says, okay, all bets are off now. Anything could happen, So we're filming. I go to the thermal, and I'm filming these quartz crystal stones after I use the Tibetan singing bowl. Now the quartz crystal stones are glowing white hot. They're glowing white hot. And I'm like, I'm telling my tech guy, Brian, touch the stone, because they're showing they're white hot in the thermal. And Brian's like, I'm not touching those things. What are you, nuts? And I was like, okay, you hold the camera. I'll touch them. They were cold to the touch, but in the thermal camera, they were white hot. Okay, so we're sitting there, and it's dark now, and we hear the Sasquatch come over to us. We heard it walk over to us from the western side of the woods. Now, that night, there was a full moon and a meteor shower, and the coyotes were on the western ridge, and they were howling at the moon. And there must have been a dog kennel on the eastern side of the ridge of the woods, because the dogs were barking at the coyotes. And we're sitting there, and we hear this boom, 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 bipedal steps coming towards us. And, with a parabolic mic, it sounded like it was right next to us. But it was walking over to us. And then we heard 3 large whoops. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I mean, these whoops went, it was like 100 yards away from us, and they went through us like we were standing directly in front of it. And my camera guy said, okay, it's time to leave. And I was like, no, I'm not ready to leave yet. I feel like there's more to come. And we're hunkered down, and there's a little stone wall behind us, like a 3-foot wall behind us. And we're sitting there, and my camera guy's got his back up against the wall. I'm in the middle. My tech guy, Brian's to the right of me. When we hear something quadruped come charging up the ridge in the leaf litter, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. It's coming. It's coming. We don't know what it is. And my camera guy jumps up and he starts to run by me. And as he runs by me, I reach out, I grab him, I spin him around, I tell him, stand your ground. So him and Brian pull out their machetes. All we had were 18 machetes and 10-inch survival knives and bear spray. I pulled out my survival knife because I was in between the trees. I was closer to the wall, and I thought it was a mountain lion, and I thought it was going to hit that wall and jump on me, and I was going to have to kill it with my knife. And something comes charging right up to the wall, never comes over the wall, stops dead. Okay. I got a little digital camera hanging on my neck. I take a photograph of it. Boom. I put it back down. We wait. We never hear anything leave. We never hear anything walk away. Never hear anything jump down into the swamp. So I say, okay, let's grab the camera. Let's go over the wall. We go over the wall. We film. There's nothing there in any spectrum of light. We don't see anything. My camera guy has a 1500 lumen flashlight. We light up the woods like daytime. Nothing there. Okay. So he says, can we leave now? And I was like, no, not yet. I still think there's more to come. At this point, the Sasquatch throws a stone the size of a bowling ball into our camp, up over the top of the trees and down in between the 3 of us. And it rolls and it hits my tech guy, Brian's chair. And he's like, can we leave now? And I'm like, nope, I'm still not ready to leave yet, The whole time, we didn't know that we were above a dogman den in the swamp. We never knew there was a dog. We weren't there for the dogman. I knew there were no reports of the dogman. So we didn't know there was a dogman there. So then we decided to get quiet. So we started to leave. And Brian says, I'm going to keep one of the cameras rolling. And as we're walking past the lake along these giant stones, I see something flying in the night sky, flashing like a silver flash. And I was like, oh, God, please don't let this be a UFO. I don't want these guys to get abducted because of me, And soon as I said that in my head, I think Brian points up and says, what's that? Now, he's filming the UFO. And as he's filming the UFO, it flies over to us. It makes a beeline over to us. And we're standing underneath it. And we hear this electrical hum. And if you go to the video on YouTube under the Bronxville Paranormal Society, you can see it. And we're discussing what it is. And all of a sudden, this thing hits us with a light beam, a beam of light, and we're engulfed in its light. And we're sitting there in its light. And I say to the guys, time check. And we do a time check. And it's like 9 o'clock. I said, okay. I said, we should step out of this light because we don't know what it's doing to us. And my tech guy, Brian, said it's probably downloading us. And as soon as we stepped out of the light went off and the UFO flew away across the lake. Like in the blink of an eye, it was gone. Okay. We get to the meadow. We're sitting in the meadow. We call the psychic up, and the psychic says, okay, you're going to see shadow figures on dance, jumping from tree to tree. You're going to see gnomes. You're going to see balls of light. These balls of light are fairies. You're going to see all this stuff. And like, we're like, oh my God, this woman's crazy. You know what I mean? We're going to actually see this stuff. So we're sitting there, and I'm facing south. Brian's facing north, and Bill's actually standing up filming the meteor shower. And I see two balls of light come out from behind a bush on the other side of the lake where we were just from. So I says to Brian, you hit the one on the right with your green laser. I'll hit the one on the left with my red laser, and let's see what happens. I said, Bill, you hit the area with the 1500 lumen flashlight. Let's see what it is. Because I didn't know if these balls of light were going to turn into anything, you know? So we hit them with the lasers, and they blinked out and never came back. So we said, okay, that was interesting. Now I'm seeing shadow figures jumping from tree to tree, and I'm taking pictures of it. And Bill and Brian's looking up, and he sees them. So Bill brings the night vision camera over to film, and it's funny because there were no leaves on the tree. It was Halloween, but when you looked at the trees through the night vision camera, it looked like a Christmas tree with all kinds of ornaments on it. I don't know what these ornaments were, but there was all kinds of ornaments. Now, as we're all looking up, Brian says to Bill, point the camera behind Al. I see movement behind Al. So Bill comes over to where I'm sitting, and Brian's over my shoulder, Bill's over my shoulder, and we had another monitor hooked up to the camera. So we had two monitors with two SD cards. And we're filming. Bill's filming the area, and Brian and I are looking through on the monitor, and hand to God, may God strike me dead, a gnome comes out from behind a tree. This thing had to be 2 feet tall, and it runs from the right of us to the left of us. So then all three of us look at each other like, what did you just see? Because we all can't be having the same hallucination. And everybody says, we just seen a gnome. We look back, and another one comes out, and it goes from one tree to the other. So we're freaking out because we go, okay, we got this on film. The camera's got an SD card in it. The monitor has an SD card in it. We got it. We got it. This is amazing. We go over and look to see what's behind these trees, and there's nothing there. It's just more woods. And we don't know where they went to or where they came from, but we go back to the base camp, and we're discussing what happens when we hear what sounds like a family coming down the Appalachian Trail, a mother and father and two small children. And you could hear the parents talking like a murmur kind of talking. And you can hear the kids giggling and laughing, kicking rocks. And so where's three large men sitting in the dark with 18-inch machetes? I say, maybe we should put our headlamps on so we don't freak these people out when they come out. So we put our headlamps on. We hear the murmur come right to the edge of the opening of the Appalachian Trail to the meadow, and no one comes out. So we go in to look to see if anybody needs our help. There's nobody there. We call the psychic. We said, we explained to her what happened. And she says, first of all, why are you calling me so late? And I said, what are you talking about? We just got here, and it's only been like 15 minutes since the last time we called you. And she's like, no, it's like 2 hours later. It's not 15 minutes. Like, no, it's impossible. Can't be. It felt like it was only 15 minutes since when we called her when we first got to the location. She's claiming it's 2 hours. We don't know where the 2 hours went to. No. But we explained to her what happened. And she says, those people will be there tomorrow. You're in a time-space continuum. And those people they're not hiking through the woods at this time of night on Halloween with their children. They'll be there tomorrow. And it was Crazy. Now, again, I do photographs in a 360, not 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 knowing if I'm getting anything because I don't see anything in my little camera. It's got such a small viewfinder. I'm taking photographs, and she says, "Well, it's like a quarter to it's 11:30." So I said, "You know what? I wanted to be at the campsite for 12 o'clock anyway. That's when the Bigfoots come out at the campsite. So let's go to the campsite." So we go to the campsite. Again, only takes us about 15 minutes to get there. Each location was about 15 minutes apart from another. We get to the campsite, and for some reason, I don't know why, one of us say, "Oh, tonight's the night you turn the clocks back." So it's not really a quarter to 12, it's only a quarter to 11. So we got to sit here for another hour. We've been in the woods 18 hours. We're delirious. We don't know whether we're coming or going. All night long, Bill is saying the woods are devoid of life. The woods are devoid of life. There's no animals in these woods. It doesn't make any sense. We're 4 miles deep in. There's a 52-acre lake. There's no animals. And he keeps saying devoid of life. So the game plan was when we got out of there, we would go to a diner, get a bite to eat, a cup of coffee, and discuss the night. Well, as we're hiking out, now we're on a mining road hiking out, we're discussing what a crappy night it was. Nothing happened. Meanwhile, we had all these experiences, but we now seem to realize that we just had all these experiences. And the closer we get to civilization, the more animals we see, deers and skunks and raccoons and possums, and doesn't make any sense. We get to our cars and everybody goes different ways. Nobody goes to the diner. Everybody just goes home. Brian calls me up in the morning and says, "Dude, I woke up, I have a small bruise on my chest. It looks like a tiny handprint, and I'm spitting blue phlegm." And I was like, "I don't know." And then he goes, "How do you feel?" I said, "I got a fat lip. Like, I feel like something's been implanted under my lip." And so let's call Bill. So we get Bill on a conference call, and Bill says he was having night terrors all night, seeing shadow figures looking in at him through his sliding glass door. And he woke up with a bump on his head like somebody hit him over the head with a baseball bat. So we called the psychic, who's in Arkansas, to ask her what happened, because none of us fell down that night. None of us got hurt. And she's first thing she says to us, "The arm that I was using to hold the phone in to talk to you guys, I have a rash from my wrist to my elbow. And I don't know where that rash comes from." And I don't know what the hell happened to us that night, but I mean, everything under the sun happened. A couple of weeks later, a month later, we're looking at the evidence review. We got on a 60-inch TV, and we're looking at the evidence review, and we're not really seeing anything. In the photograph that I was doing, the 360 at the meadow, there's tons of orbs in with different faces, different colors. And I had just done a Native American powwow thing before that. And we all thought that those were the Native Americans coming to join the powwow, the ceremony, the drum ceremony. I got a phone call from a guy from California. He says, "You know that picture you have of the stone wall?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "There's a dog man behind that stone wall." Like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "I'll send it to you." He sends it to me, and he circles it. And I think it's photoshopped, right? I go to the SD card, I put the SD card in the computer, and there it is, clear as day. How none of us didn't see it at the evidence review is beyond me. Now, 2 days later, he calls me back and he says, "When you were in the meadow with all the orbs, there's a Bigfoot in the photograph watching you." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He sends it to me. Again, I look at it. Now, what he did was he zoomed in right at the end of where the light ended and the shadow began. And right at the beginning of that shadow was the only tree in the woods that had leaves on it. It was a little small red maple tree, right? And underneath that maple tree, you see a Sasquatch on his belly, like on his hands, looking at us, watching us. Now, the only thing I could think of is he was trying to get us out of that location because the den was there, the Dogman den, and they may have had pups in the den, and we were in harm's way. And I'm thinking The only reason why he was at the meadow watching us was to make sure that dog man didn't follow us back to the west side of the lake, the woods, where his clan is, you know? And we got all this evidence that we didn't know we captured. And it was, but when we checked the SD cards for the gnomes on both the camera and the monitor said error, corrupted. The SD card said there was it said error and corruption on both cards. So we never got any video of the gnomes or the walls of light.
That's what I was suspecting was going to happen. That's happened to me too.
It's just crazy.
Sasquatch have taken pictures off my camera. They've actually taken them off my camera. They've taken pictures that I didn't take that showed up on my camera, like interdimensional stuff.
Wow, that's crazy.
And like stuff like I'm talking about something, like show this guy this picture, for instance, because then I was saying that sometimes they take pictures off of cameras. So I'm in a restaurant talking about it and saying, show the picture that we just took today. And as he's trying to find it, it's gone.
It's gone.
They knew because they were setting up a lesson. It was gone. Every other picture was there. There's way more to it than that. But it's just these guys are like, they can give you any audible, visual, or sensory experience that they want. And sometimes you hear something right by you, like you were talking about, you heard some stuff like really loud right by you. It's not necessarily the case. They can project that sound or put that in your
right, and that's what and that's what I thought originally. I said, did I hear that in my head? But I felt the breath go in my ear. You know what I mean? And that's what I said. No, this wasn't something that was projected into my head. This was something standing right next to me. Because then I heard the leaves crunch as it walked away. You know, but it was crazy. I mean, it's just one crazy thing after another. Yeah, well, it
could be either or a bunch of stuff, a bunch of other stuff too. I mean, they got abilities, like incredible abilities. We got about 10 minutes or so. I think. I guess we caught Thom during his nap.
Yeah, Thom passed out. Yeah,
but anyway, is there anything that
I'm just sitting here listening.
Is there anything that you wanted to share? Any of your favorite stories or whatever, or something you had on your heart that you wanted to talk about?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I really didn't know where we were going to go today. I mean, like when we were at the location, I sent you a video of an invisible helicopter. Okay, now. You see me filming the crystal blue sky and you hear the helicopter all around us, but you don't see it. Now, the last 2 times that I was there with my cousin during those celestial events, both times the helicopter showed up as soon as we got there. Now, I don't know if the government has put sensors in the ground now, and when we get there, they show up to see who's there. But the last 3 times we got there, as soon as we got there, I mean, so soon that we weren't even able to unpack our backpacks, the helicopter showed up. Now, the first 2 times it showed up at daytime, it showed up at night. But here's the kicker. We can hear the helicopter. We can feel the percussion of its blades. We can see the leaf litter flying around us. But we don't see the helicopter. It's invisible. So when it came back at night and it did the same thing, and I looked at it through my thermal and it wasn't giving off any heat, but you can hear it clear as day, I said, okay, I'm going to take out my laser and I'm going to find this thing in the sky. At some point, the laser is going to stop. It's going to hit something. I don't know. But the laser never hit anything that whole night. It went to infinity the whole night. It never hit anything. Now, I've heard of helicopters being silent where you can't hear them, but they can hover over you. But I've never heard of one being loud but invisible before, you know? Yeah. And both times, actually all 3 times, we had digital voice recorders going. And all 3 times, the first 2 times, the first time it said, the digital voice was corrupted. The second time it said there was an error. It didn't record anything. And the last time we searched for the audio of the helicopter, all the audio files were jumbled. I mean, we couldn't find it because I've had so many files, been using the same recorder for so many years. I got so many files on it. We spent an hour in the car looking for it, and it was just jumbled. We couldn't find it. And I'm thinking this helicopter is coming back. When it comes back at night, it's zapping the audio recorders because we're not getting anything on them, you know. But that was just crazy. I mean, it was just absolutely insane.
What was the area again? Is there something there they're trying to protect? What don't they want you to know? Or
Well,
what are they?
Originally, this area they used to mine high weapons grade uranium there. Okay, and they had a facility on the lake where they would refine it, and the facility blew up, and everything spilled into the lake. And they spent millions of dollars to clean the lake. Technically, it's a federal park, but you won't find any signs for it. There's no other than the mining road that they used to use, which was all concrete, and the Appalachian Trail. There's no bathrooms, there's no benches, there's no water fountains, there's no signs for it. It's like it doesn't exist, but when you look it up, technically it's a federal. But they do have a ranger station right outside. It's the only park that has a ranger station right outside. And I don't know. I mean, I've been going back to this facility, this location for 10 years now. And I don't know if they're monitoring that location as well, because we do have the Dogman Den on the west side of the woods and the Sasquatch clan up on the sacred site on the other side, down below the sacred site. So I don't know if they're monitoring that location. I'm thinking there may be sensors in the ground, because I swear to God, as soon as we get there, the invisible helicopter shows up. So I don't know what's going on there. This never happened before on all my years. It's just started happening last year for the first time. So I don't know what's going on there.
My heavens.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Outstanding. This has been a wonderful 2 hours. It really has.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm honored. I'm honored. Believe me.
Is there any? Did you want to share one or two of your favorite experiences, or have you?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, I'm done. I mean, I'm 2 hours. I'm done. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let me just ask you one question then that we ask every guest.
Okay.
How has your relationship with the Sasquatch people changed your life? Because I mean, I think you have a relationship with them. Obviously, you're not an investigator, or.
I think because of my relationship with the Sasquatch people, I was taken out of my body when I had an out-of-body experience, and I was told this is what my guide was telling me. He was going to show me the secrets of the universe. And in our travels up, I was on like this rainbow bridge. We were going, and it was the most purest colors you ever seen in your life. It was amazing. And as we were flying up, where I was seeing like all these mathematical equations and musical notes, and then like people like Einstein and Tesla and Beethoven and Bach and all of this stuff. And the whole time I'm going up there, this guide is telling me he's going to tell me the secrets of the universe, but he hasn't said anything to me yet. He's just showing me all of this stuff. And we were going like to the outer limits of the universe. Then we started to get pulled back, and we started to go back down the rainbow bridge. I call it a rainbow bridge. We start to slide back down the rainbow bridge, and I'm like, tell me the secrets before we get back. I get back in my body and I wake up. You know, I want to know what the secrets were. And the guy told me it had to do with frequency, vibration, and consciousness, and intention. And then as I was going back into my body, I was like, just got to the roof of my house. I said to the guide, this was the craziest dream I ever had. And the guide stopped me and said, it's not a dream. And when the snow melts, you're going to see a sign. And I was like, okay. We had 16 inches of snow outside. I think it was like February at the time. And when the snow melts, I went out looking for a sign, not knowing what to find, you know? And behind my stone wall, in my far backyard around, I want to say spruce tree, I think it is. I found like 8 giant stones of quartz crystal stones set up in a circle around the tree. Now, at this point, I'm not a higher consciousness guy by any stretch of the imagination, but the little voice said to me, touch the stone. So I touched the stone, and then the voice said, touch the tree. And I touched the tree, and I can feel the stone vibrating, and the vibration was going through my body and into the tree. And I felt the tree pulsating like it had a heartbeat, you know? And I called a friend of mine who's a higher conscious guy, and I was like, what does this mean? You know, it's beyond me. And he's like, anytime you have a question for the universe, sit on the stone with your back against a tree with no shoes on, and so you can be grounded on the earth, he said, and then go into meditation and ask your question and you'll get an answer. He said it's a meditation circle, and that's what it's meant for. Because I had no idea what it was, you know. And I don't have any quartz crystal stone behind my house. And when my children were small, we did a lot of running around through the woods with BB guns, hunting and stuff, squirrels. And I never came across any quartz crystal stones. So I don't know where these stones came from. And they're all huge. They're like the size of bowling balls. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And ever
Fantastic.
since then, and I attribute that because my psychic, not only my psychic, but all the psychics have told me that I had an ascension and that I'm vibrating at a higher frequency now. And I think that all happened because I started to have that telepathic communication with the Sasquatch. At least I think so. I can't prove that, but that's what I think happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Similar story with me.
Wow.
I'm sure.
Crazy.
Alfred,
Yeah.
thank you for a great 2 hours. I was just
Oh, Thom,
absolutely.
pleasure was all mine. Believe me, sir. Believe me. Brian, thank you for the invite. Greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
Yep. We hadn't had you on in a while. I thought, hey, what about old Alfred? I wonder what's going on with him.
There we go. Good.
I'm always up to something anyway. I try to stay busy, you know.
That's why
the Squatch Father.
Yeah, the Squatch Father.
The Squatch Father.
Yeah.
The Squatch Father and the Pope. What
and
an
the
honor.
Pope.
You said you were honored. How do you think I feel? I'm with the Squatch Father and the Pope. I mean, who should be honored here, right?
Thank you.
Anyway.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, thanks everybody for watching. And who do we have on next week? We have some interesting people coming on. We have a few first timers.
Baranchek.
Who's that?
Baranchek.
Baranchek.
Yeah, is that who I have next week?
I don't think so. I never heard that name.
Oh,
Baranchek.
okay. All right.
Okay.
Oh, do we have? I think we might have. Jill and Brett Eichenberger.
Oh yeah, right. Yes.
Eichenberger.
Jill and Brett.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
Flash of Beauty.
Flash of Beauty, right?
Yeah.
Flash of Beauty. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I had him here for our town hall meeting last 15th of last month, and
Nice.
my heavens, they brought the house down.
That's awesome.
They absolutely brought. You're talking about Predator. They took Barb Shoop's Predator film.
Yes.
And gave it to the Hollywood entity gentleman who did the Predator films.
Oh, okay.
And had him basically try to debunk it. The interview was fantastic.
Awesome.
I mean, it started out with, I don't think that would be hard to copy. And by the time he got done, no, I couldn't have done that, and I don't know anybody else that could have done that.
That's a beautiful thing when it ends like that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was. Yeah. But
all right, gentlemen, thank you very much.
Right.
I'm going to run.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you later.
So on behalf of Fort Cunningham and the world's oldest man, he's over 300 years old now. This has been the port. Oh, he didn't even wait. Okay. Well, I guess that means my outro wasn't important. Okay. Anyway, see you guys later.
All right, bye.
See you next week. Yeah, bye.
So it was that I came to travel upon a road that was full and narrow. Another place, another praise would save me